Mine's really, really early.
Same, actually. I realise I know what my accept is.
Does it start with paradoxical effect?
Yes, God damn it.
Are you taking the opening?
I am taking the opening. Hello, listeners.
Hello.
I'm Natasha.
And I'm Damien.
Welcome to episode 12 of the Lowbrow Lowdown. We are reading pandemic-themed literature, so you don't... Oh, sorry, Damien?
So you don't have to.
This week we actually have returned to crime literature, but this story is one with a really big difference, and we both enjoyed it very much.
We did.
Oh no, our spoiler of our rating. Sorry. Damien, what's the book about?
So the book is called Corvid, a novella. And the blurb reads... by Martin Cross. Sorry, Martin. In the early months of 2020, a global pandemic stopped our clamorous, overbearing species in its tracks. The volume of human life was turned down, allowing other creatures to get a word in for once. During this extraordinary time, a clever young crow is witness to a crime and resolves to bring the perpetrator to justice. A dangerous and arduous task requiring painstaking investigation, I'm going to just... I'm going to edit it.
Investigative.
A painstaking... But it's... a painstaking investigative work and a new level of communication between bird and man, inspired by real-life research into the cognitive power of corvids. This is a story of how we share our urban space with at least one other brainy, resourceful species. It's not all about us. And it was lovely.
So lovely. I've got to admit, when I first read this book, and I pretty much picked this book solely to do with the pun of the book title, because it's Corvid, but the R is in square brackets.
But interestingly, there was a point early in the pandemic, because I didn't know that Corvid was
Crow.
Yeah.
Mm.
And someone made a typo?
No, I'd made a stupid joke about COVID-19. Like, crows everywhere.
And I was probably like,
Googling.
I think it's spelled COVID.
You idiot, Natasha.
Little did I know I was the idiot. And so that kind of caught our attention as well.
Mm. So I'm sure we and perhaps Martin Cross were probably not the only people that made that connection.
No.
People who play with words notice and are entertained by that sort of stuff.
Yeah, it was such a surprise. And because we have read a lot of crime fiction, none of it good.
None of it good.
And I just didn't know what to expect from, like, not only is it crime fiction, but it's from the perspective of a crow.
Yeah. Well, that's the book is from the perspective of a crow, and that's the most appeal. Well, I don't know. I think when I read the blurb originally, I just thought, this is going to be some god awful, cheesy, Corona inspired literature that written in a hurry, but it was beautifully written.
I was imagining all of the crow dialogue in the style of, like, before I read it, in the style of Moira Rose in The Crowating, like, you know, caw, what is caw? And it was like, it's probably one of my favorite things is how the author handled the crow's communication, because it wasn't like, he didn't say
cheesy.
No, it would be like, I crawled, which everyone understood to mean. Yeah. We've really got to see what the crow saw and what the crow said, and it didn't feel like, but it was extremely convincing. I felt 100% as though I was hearing these words in a crow's voice, but not necessarily in that, crow's accent, shall we say. No, I just fully believed that the crow was
thinking that way.
Yeah. And because the observations were, it understood what human things were, and it was...
But there was a slight remove to some of them that was really, say, on the face of it, humans are ridiculous. And we put such store in very.
That we never finished the food we order.
Yeah, we never finished the food we order.
Except for the alcohol and chocolate.
Yeah, I highlighted that one as well. I was like, yeah, he goes, for some reason, yeah, but he liked the beers. And he goes, but for some reason they never left any of that after drinking. So should we run through what is it? Well, no, we don't need to run through everything. So the crow is not named, but we do know that he's a carrion crow. And I was looking up, because he was talking about his not I suppose interspecies or intergenus cousins or family members like magpies and jackdaws. And this book is based in Glasgow, so the UK.
Yes, and I didn't know this until I lived in the UK, and I lived in Glasgow, so quite a connection to the geography of this book. Yeah. But I didn't realise that they had magpies, and when they pointed at a magpie, I was like, "That's not a magpie." Yeah, of course, it's the original magpie.
It's the original magpie, and magpies in Australia are not corvids.
No, they're terrifying. They're beautiful and lovely, but also they're terrifying.
But reading about reading reference to magpies and jackdaws, it reminded me of another book that I have read. It's I do love to read non-fiction for fun, and one of my favourite books is Where Song Began, and it's by Tim Lowe, and it's a non-fiction book about the birds of Australia and the influence, or not say influence, but how many songbirds originated in Australia or Gondwana land back when there were fewer continents. And many of the birds of the world originated in Australia. Or not Australia, that's making me sound really nationalistic. No, but this area. But one of the stories about magpies in that book is he retails news stories from Brisbane, which I have a personal connection to, and kids screaming and crying as they're being, told to run across the oval to the teachers who are waiting in the wings with band-aids and bags. That's exactly what it was like. Going to primary school in Brisbane, I'd have to run the magpie gauntlet constantly.
I remember riding my bike to school and there just being a section of, in spring when they were nesting, a section where if you were walking, didn't notice a thing, but if you were on a bike, that magpie. Oh my God. That magpie was going to gouge your eyes out.
Yeah, and they've done that. They've really hurt people very badly.
Well, and so we're introduced to this crow, and he's talking about his situation. He's mating for the first time. He's 3, which is, I think a lot of research went into the book.
So much research went into this book.
Yeah.
It's so authentic. There's something very believable about everything. So, it's a young crow and he's got a mate.
And she's sitting on 6 eggs and he's out getting some food. And
there's a lot of discussion about food and the seeking of food.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and it kind of makes sense. And that's how all animals kind of are. Humans.
But even when we're not given any names, we don't know. Doesn't have a name, but the young crow talks. We learn through this young crow's exploration of where he is and what food he needs is that a crow of approximately 400 grams or 500 grams needs 200 calories a day.
Yeah.
That is a lot of calories for a little bird.
Well, and so he starts out, and so this is part of my something that I really connected with in the book. So he starts out, he's talking about he's flying around Acre Road, which is just north of his park where he lives. And it's not far from it's just past Partick, it's near Glasgow University, and it's a place in the west of Glasgow.
I don't know it.
Where I used to go running.
Oh. So you must have really enjoyed reading
this. I knew the places he was.
Really
the tenement they described sounded like the tenement I lived in Denniston. It was, and very different times. It was a historic tenement. Yeah. Very nice place.
Yeah. No Victorian sewists, seamstresses.
And it had flushing toilets.
Yeah.
But he sort of, this kind of is around where my excerpt kind of is. Because
we both chose this excerpt. But
yes. So, sorry, Natasha.
No. No, sorry, Damien. I didn't mean to.
We were like, oh, I've got an excerpt. And you were like, mine's near the start too. And I said, does it start? This
With
had a paradoxical
paradoxical.
effect. And you're like, yes.
But, you go, and then I'll talk about why I picked it as well. So it's probably for the same reason.
Yeah. Well, so look, I think it's very beautiful. So he's talking about COVID has sort of hit and the world has changed a bit. This had a paradoxical effect on bird communication. Initially, the songs of the blackbird, the robin, and the thrush sounded much louder than before. The dawn chorus was cacophonous. Then I realised that the singing was no louder than usual. It just sounded so because there was less competition. Then, as we could all hear ourselves and each other more accurately and distinctly than ever before, the songs became more complex. The boys, and it was almost always the boys, were showing off, not by singing louder, but by singing more beautifully. They took the opportunity afforded by the relative quiet to develop complicated trills and arpeggios, polyrhythms and breakbeats, showing more individuality and subtlety in their attempts to impress the girls. Of course, that was just the songbirds, larks, thrushes, little brown things mostly. I wasn't going to change my voice, no matter what was going on in the world. There are only so many ways you can say cra, after all.
Yeah.
I know that character. Like, from that, you just sort of... And it's goosebumps inducing.
Yeah. This book had many moments of really sitting in... Oh, I don't know how to describe it. I've really got a sense... I think that we know this bird. We know this... I don't know, is bird enough? We know this...
He's a character. He's a
character. He's a being.
Soul, kind of...
sentient being.
Yeah.
And I think I chose it. And I was thinking, why did I choose this one about noise and birds? And it's like, it's the same reason I've chosen all of my excerpts along the line. It's just these moments of quiet, the effect of the pandemic on life around us has changed life around us. And it's like, obviously I'm not the only one to have observed that, but it strikes me beautifully in this one more than the others. So that's why why was it you chose it, do you think, Damien? Just because of the goosebumpiness, or...? It
gave me this... it was almost entirely for that final line because it sort of... He was positioning himself in his world in a way that he kind of observes everything.
Yeah.
And
but absolutely knows his place.
Yes. Yeah, it's not. He's not a songbird, and he knows that, and he can admire them without being envious of them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. He's just aware of their beauty.
Sorry, we're near my house, and we're at my house, and I live near a rail crossing for like another year until it's gone.
Oh gosh, is that going to be like another year until? All right.
I'm just like, do you know what? This is part of the atmosphere. Imagine a quieter world, like the crow.
Like the crow, yes. So we learn about this crow. He's in a relationship with a beautiful girl and about to become a father for the first time. And then we sort of go into a typical day. He goes soaring over roofs, hedges, and laneways, looking for food. But he has a bit of fun on the way, teases cats, steals food from dogs.
Yeah, he's found some pizza and there's a magpie nearby.
Yeah.
And the sort of inter-bird species conversations are very interesting because, he talks about how he can understand some but not others. And the magpie makes a noise that he understands to mean, where did you get that? And he doesn't want to give it away, so he throws them a little bit of the pizza so that they don't know where he got it from.
Here's another thing. I highlighted a text out of it. It was to do with the pizza. They found the remains of an enormous pizza, more than a third of the huge dish, presumably intended to feed 5 humans, but ordered by perhaps 2. Yes, okay, it's a pandemic, leave us alone. Eating more than we need to.
The COVID bulges are real.
Oh, it's so real. And he loves pizza.
He does. And
So do I.
I related to him. He was very food motivated, as am I.
As am I.
But I guess so. We see this kind of typical day, and his aim is, and he's like carefully selects out some pizza. Oh, no, it ends up being the magpies found the pizza, so he wraps a bit of pizza base around some kebab filling.
It's very clever. Like he's like builds a little parcel of different food types and wraps it all together
to take back to his
mate who's nesting the eggs.
And the the eggs are there, but she's not.
Yes.
And so he quickly flies down to sort of check the eggs, and they're still warm, so she hasn't been gone for long, or perhaps the sun had helped.
Yeah.
And he sits on them and sort of nestles in for the night, wondering where she's gone.
And he thinks, and he goes through a bit of a process to try and figure out, like, it's been a little while, like he realises the next morning that she's not come back, and he tries to, there's this process of deduction as to what happened to her, realises that if it was an animal of like a stoat or a weasel, I don't know, did you say weasel? Foxes,
yeah.
He goes, if they got the bird, they would have got the eggs as well, so it can't have been that. And he realises it's looking more and more like it was a human that did something to take her away. And so he goes looking for her. Well,
and sorry, we'll try not to tell you the entire book, but there's then this section of family structures and in sort of how crows before they have their own young, how they all play a role in raising the young of the others that are at an age to do it.
They're in a big, loose family group. So he was able to enlist the support of his siblings and cousins, female siblings and female cousins, to help sit on the eggs
while he went
looking for it and get food as well.
And I guess we get what I thought was going to be like a B storyline that had a different resolution, and it kind of does.
Kind of did, but it was more like it was this.
They were tied together.
There was very much, and there was almost like a crescendo of like, oh, here's a defining moment. It's that she's gone missing. He's gone looking for her, and then it's like, no, that wasn't the defining moment. It was the later down the track when he does find out what has happened to her.
This is kind of like an inciting incident, and when he finds out what happened to her, that's kind of your first plot point.
I almost cried.
But then,
but I don't want to give it away.
Yeah, but there's this really beautiful sort of repeated phrase that crows are not a sentimental species, and they kind of accept something and move on.
Yeah, but he sticks at finding out what. And it's like once he has moved on, his attention and need to solve a puzzle is...
That's a really good way of describing it, the need to solve a puzzle.
Yeah, it's not that he latches on to the first round, but he realises so a person was responsible for his mate's kidnapping, and he realises that this person is responsible for other crimes, and he sees a human who may be vulnerable as a result of this bad guy. We'll call him Dog Man. And that for me is where the book really starts.
Yeah, it is driving. Like, he's found this person, and there's a real sense of he can see that this person is a danger, and the crow has sort of made a mission in this very, like, not in a super kind of, he's not a magical bird in a way that a crow could to some degree feasibly do. Like, who knows how, like,
without knowing, as a human being, without actually being able to ever know what goes on inside a crow's head, this was very believable.
I like that they're going, oh yeah, crows are doing this now. Like,
they're reading. Oh wait, no, it's about. But it wasn't not even.
No, he didn't read, but he recognised that a symbol was consistently represented.
Yes, yeah, that's very believable.
Yeah,
and it's like it could be true. It could absolutely be true. I think. I'd like to think that it's true.
Yeah, it's kind of it's a nice idea to think it's true, and to hopefully think that crows look at us and go, well, yes, you're stupid because you eat too much, but and buy food that you don't finish, but also
we love you for that.
You're not a bad person.
No, that's a nice way to think about it. So this crime that he's trying to prevent, I don't know. He doesn't know whether he's preventing a crime, but he fears for this other person. And so what he does, we'll give away a little bit. He steals the mail out of this bad guy's mailbox and takes.
We missed the entire.
I realise what I've missed. There's a doctor, a professor.
Yeah, like an ornithologist?
Ornithologist, yeah, at the university. And he goes to the university a lot because the students...
the University of Glasgow.
Oh, the University of Glasgow. It's he goes there a lot because students, he's guaranteed an easy meal because people are in a hurry. They say, oh, no, I've got to go to class, and they'll leave behind half-finished meals. And so it's a favourite. And he realises that there's a doctor there who has a captive crow in his... Must be doing experiments, but
it was like
behavioural
the puzzle
research.
thing. So the crow in his office is solving puzzles, and I only realised when you talked about him solving the puzzle, it's it's just a big puzzle.
It's a big puzzle.
It's what people do with crows to show that they're intelligent in labs or like controlled situations.
Yeah. I forgot what I was going to say. And so he kind of by interacting with this doctor who he feels would be receptive to
him trying to communicate, but
it's hard to describe, but because he already is interested in crows and he's open to receiving that communication, so he steals a mail from this bad guy's house and repeatedly gives it to Dr. Bob.
The doctor. Yeah, he calls him Dr. Bob. And it's interesting because right at the very end, so it's not done in chapters.
No,
it's sort of just following this crow's train of thought. Yeah. And it makes sense not to be in chapters. And then right at the end, we have a flip to the perspective of the professor or the doctor. And
it's flipped, it's Crow, and that's the first 2/3 of the book, or even 4/5 of the book. And then the last section is man.
And a whole bunch of things fall into place. Yeah. One other thing that I really loved from the Crow's perspective is he talks about the weather warming up and how that changed the food that was available, and there were more salads and coleslaws and
it's really nice observance of time.
Yeah, it it was just very I feel at a loss for words, but it was just so well
crafted.
Yes, crafted and really careful about how
this was a very well written book. From and this would have been edited to an inch of its life, I think, and researched so much up. Do you reckon Martin Cross researches crows?
Maybe he's an
ornithologist.
I can't even say the word ornithologist.
Maybe he's a bird man.
and it is a thing. Not all academics can write for good, for audiences, but good academics can.
Yeah, Tim Lowe for one.
And it kind of reads as someone who's a really great storyteller who maybe knows a lot about this.
Or if he doesn't, knows where he can get the right information and weaves it really beautifully into it. Well, a story that on the surface just doesn't say, a crow solving crimes. It's ridiculous.
No, it's this will be silly, and it was...
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
Did you read at the end that what inspired it?
What inspired the book?
Yeah.
Let me have a look.
Hold on.
I may not have... No, because my app was acting up, so I only just read the book. Oh, my Lord.
Let me find it.
No.
I'll read you. So these are the acknowledgements
please read
at the
it, because
end.
this is what I'm getting. It's just, a page of lines.
So, these are the acknowledgements. This book is for Annie, without whose company my lockdown morning walks in Maryhill. It's a suburb of Glasgow. I don't know, so I don't know how to say it. Gaskew and Dorsham would have been a lot less fun. Thanks also to her for proofreading my manuscript. Thanks to Bill Walsh for the cover design and for spotting the typos Annie missed. This story was inspired in part by an article by Catherine Ellen Foley and published in the Quartz News website by the Quartz News website in 2016, entitled "When a Crow Dies, Other Crows Investigate." She quotes the scholarly paper by Swift and Malzahn, from which I drew an epigraph for the beginning of this book. This research suggests convincingly that crows really do turn detective when they witness a crime against their own species.
That's amazing.
All of the corvid behaviour described in the story, games, tricks, mimicry, gifting and so on, corresponds with real observed events, although admittedly not all performed by the same bird.
That's wonderful.
It was just... It's the best thing we've read.
It is. It's probably the best thing I've read at all recently.
Yeah. It just was so... Stella's just come in to visit, so you might hear her tiptoeing around the house. But look, I think the thing we have to acknowledge is that we have nothing bad, mean,
bad.
or like
We're not
critical.
laughing at the book in any way. This book, it didn't quite bring me to tears, but it was very close. Like, there were some moments that touched me deeply. This was such a well-written and well-researched and well-edited and beautifully crafted book. This was a writer that knows how to read.
Well, and the most creative in terms of not just originality, but also the way that it's written. You know, people have written like this before, but
Of course.
to give this perspective to something that we don't expect a perspective from in such a convincing way. And I know we're repeating ourselves, but it just like
so authentic. I feel like I know this crow.
yeah, I want to like
Be its friend.
I want to go to Kelvin Grove Park and have a walk through and look at the crow and go, are you the crow?
Yeah. Yes. How are you now with the loss? Have you found love again with the...
Yeah. We've purposely not been as detailed as we normally would.
No.
Because
We actually want people to read this.
well, and
pure
also
joy that it would give you.
other books we read in this series are rushed and they're kind of I'm trying like
Churned out.
they're churned
quickly.
out and like there's no surprise in them. Everything's expected.
Yeah.
This had surprises, and I wouldn't want to take them away from you.
No, and it had more than one. Like throughout the book, it was like, oh, this happened. Oh, that's the person. Oh, there were moments that, I mean, not that there were massive plot twists, but it was just lovely surprises. It was just, look, this book was wonderful.
It is the best thing I've read.
It's the best thing I've read in a really long
ages.
time.
Yeah.
Absolutely, from me, 5 out of 5.
Oh yeah, 5 out of 5. Can I give it 10? Like
I want to give it 10.
It is.
Yes. Let's give it 10 out of 5.
Yeah, let's give it 10 out of 5 face
It was
masks.
just, it's made up for some of the absolute dross that we have
Yeah,
read.
there have been like there's been things that are so good that they're bad, but there have been things that have been genuinely awful to read.
Yeah.
And this was so lovely. It was like an antidote to all of it.
Yeah, it was. It really was. So, tell us what you think. Please go out and read this book. We are going to send a link to pretty much every book selling site so that you can. It was fantastic. And actually, we might send a link out to Martin Cross's. He's got a Facebook page for this book, so we'll send a link to that. I think join in his conversation about the book. It's not bad. But tell us what you think at Twitter at Lowbrow Lowdown or email us at lowbrowlowdown@gmail.com.
We'd really like to
Hear from
you. And honestly, I want to know if you enjoyed this book.
Yeah.
It just...
And it doesn't cost much on Amazon, I think, if you're going to buy it.
Yeah, you can get it as like, because the Kindle app is free, and if you use Kindle Unlimited, which we do, it's free as like
It's
one of
free,
the books you
but it's
can
only
borrow.
a couple of dollars.
Yeah,
to buy
it's
on
like a few
Kindle.
bucks.
Like it's not much at all. And it's not. It's short. It's a novella, but it felt like a
It felt
full
substantial.
story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Something just fell
Something
over
just
in the
fell.
background.
Absolutely. I feel like we're at a loss for words because it was so lovely.
I don't want this to end. All right, okay. But
So
it
next
has to,
week
dear listeners,
we're just going to kill the section because we never know what we're going to read next week. And but hopefully it's this good.
hopefully it's this good. I have a feeling it isn't already. It's going to be.
I didn't even have like a deeply embarrassing personal story to tell.
No. Oh, but nothing. But nothing.
Sorry, it's not funny this time.
No, I think we made up for it last week with 5 minutes of giggling.
Yeah. Thanks everyone.
Thanks, everyone. See
Bye.
you later next week. See you later next week. That's the saying.
Getting that on a t-shirt.
All right. See ya.
You gonna go for a walk, Stella?
Going for a walk.
You gonna go for a walk?
Look at you.
Little grunty baby. You grunting like a pig.